Oh, please, what is that? Don't tell me. It's all in the reflexes.
You're listening to All in the Reflexes, an unrepentant vivisection of geek news and culture.
It's all in the reflexes.
With the comedy rock geek Mikey Mason, the Brack of all trades Jeb Brack, Madison Metricula Roberts, and tech guy Steve.
It's all in the reflexes.
I know, there's a problem with your face.
Welcome to All in the Reflexes. I'm Mikey Mason.
I'm Madison Metricula Roberts.
And this is Tech Guy Steve. And before we get started, I thought we'd announce again that some of the hosts here are going to be at Fear the Con 2018. Brentwood, Missouri, June 22nd through 23rd. So if you want to get a chance to meet Jeb, Mikey, or Steve in the flesh, that's where our flesh will be.
21st, if you want to see the Mikey Mason show and catch Worldwide Wing Night.
Oh, that's right, Thursday, yep.
Yeah.
And then also it's your chance to pick up a copy of the book that Jeb assisted with. Like he's got articles in, and I believe his daughter did the cover illustration. It's Random Encounters Season 1 Omnibus. It's going on sale, but there will be printed signed copies at the convention if you happen to be there.
Now, I'm doing he gave me a preview, and I know he also gave, I hope he also gave you a preview of
Yes, yep, we got it.
Because otherwise I'd feel like a jerk. And I've just been thumbing through it, but I have a regular gaming group again, and my youngest son's in it, and one of my longtime friends who's come with me to Fear the Con is in that gaming group, and it is a sandbox game, pretty much. I built a world, and I built a specific town to set their thing in that fits within this world, to set their campaign, or at least to start their campaign in until they decide to move somewhere else. And it's all based on creating NPCs and NPC encounters and having stuff happen, but not, there is a plot that the characters can alter. There's the plot line of what will happen unless the characters change it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so reading through this book has already altered that in at least one way. So it's an interesting read, man. It's an interesting, and I've just been thumbing through it so far. So, it's a good deal. I can't wait to, pick up and hold the physical book in my hand. There's something about holding a book,
Yes.
So, but speaking of that, let's do the updates, right? Personal updates. All my albums are now on Spotify.
Congratulations.
My Spotify list is up to date, yo. It only took me, I was 4 years behind or so. But that includes my Storm Coming EP, that's up there. And also, in addition to Fear the Con and Gen Con, I will be performing at Dragon Con again this year. I got my confirmation this week. And so I can't wait to be back there. I know, Madison, you're going to be there as well, right?
I am. I'm actually going to be on staff again, and I'm handling most of the tech kind of stuff. So
Cool.
My speciality.
That means we're in good hands.
Well, we'll see. No,
It'll
I'm
be
actually
Tech Girl Madison.
Yeah. So talking about for me, Tech Girl or Fangirl, I got the sweetest email from Madelintosh Yarn. Which is it's an indie yarn brand that I really, really like. I mean, they have really good products. It's all like, artisanal, hand dyed. But they sent me a really sweet email saying that they really enjoy my Twitch stream.
Cool.
And I was just so tickled because it means so much when people let you know that they care, especially as like an entertainer. And I just thought that was really nice of them. But Tosh Yarn, the cool thing about them is that they have a lot of really nerdy colorway collections. So they have groups of yarn that are colored and inspired by Stranger Things, Game of Thrones, and like Star Wars. Cool. So it's like a really cool nerdy yarn brand. They also have really good patterns, but I can't believe that somebody at Madelintosh knows who I am. That's so crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm
All
so
I'm
excited.
saying is if they've been watching your Twitch stream, they need to get the Georgia O'Keeffe collection going on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Because you knit lady
anatomical
parts.
anatomical aids, you could say.
Yes. Sure. What's up in your world, Steve?
Yeah, in my case, it's very personal. I bought a car. It's not even something I do every decade. My car had it for 12 years, and man, did I enjoy having it fully paid off. It's like, so that's all, like, even though it was getting old and having problems, I kept them like every month I don't have to payment is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually the mechanic is just like, it's rusting. There's not anything for me to bolt this thing onto. You got to get a new one. And so I did. I got a used car. And it's cool. It's cool having a car that's, within, this one's 3 years old. And so it's got modern features. It's a smooth ride, and it's got all these crazy, LCD screens with, with gadgets. Like, what's my tire pressure right now while I'm on the freeway driving? Boom, there it is.
Crazy. Do you have like USB ports or like an aux?
Both. It's got an aux and a USB and Bluetooth.
Oh my goodness.
Trust me, the very first thing I did is make sure I could play my podcast while I'm driving.
Oh yeah.
Priority number one.
And now you feel like Iron Man. You've got all these heads-up displays popping everywhere.
Yep, for silly things like, what percentage of the drivetrain power goes to the front and the back wheels right now? That's not something that's critical while you're driving. But whatever, man.
Have it.
It's just a push button away.
If you're an automotive engineer, though, that's the kind of thing you can geek out about, right?
Yes.
All right, well, let's get to some news.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
Normally, we reserve the in memoriam section for famous people who have passed, but a friend of mine passed. He was in charge of the Tidewater Browncoats Can't Stop the Serenity event in Norfolk, Virginia, and Shane McNulty was a great guy, and he always had my back. And he passed away suddenly and unexpectedly on Tuesday morning, and he will absolutely and totally be missed. And I just wanted to say that I will miss him. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for that.
It's very sad.
Community's loss.
I was just going to say, a lot of us come to the hobby when we were pretty young, and you don't really think about, the people you interact with, game with, play music with, hang out with, as passing. Yeah. And then as you get older, these very people are the ones that you begin to see go, and it's very, very sad.
His wife, his brother, his friends, I know they will all feel his loss far more intensely than I do. And I say his friends, but I mean his close friends, because obviously I considered him a friend, and I hope he considered me a friend. So, and I know they'll feel his loss much more intensely than I do. But anyway, I'll miss you, Shane.
In other news, there's I guess I don't know what category to throw this into. I guess the internet is a open sewer pipe category. Is that a thing? The young actress Millie Bobby Brown. Which,
don't they call that Twitter?
Yeah, exactly.
I will fight you over Twitter's validity, but that's a problem with your face, sir.
So Millie Bobby Brown was an active Twitter user. Had two different accounts, and like a lot of young people. And so she's an actress. She's well known for Stranger Things, but she's been in other TV shows, so she's obviously had other parts. I was surprised by how good of an actress she is. I think I was seeing her on TV at like 12 or 13, and just a really good job. It's obviously she's got a lot of talent. Anyways, so the news is that she was kind of driven off of Twitter, closed her account, because for whatever reason, they decided to use a picture of her, I believe her as 11 from the Stranger Things show, in memes, and the memes were all attacking gay, and so it was attacking with homophobic slurs, etc. And it wasn't they weren't attacking Millie Bobby Brown. They were using her image to attack homosexuals, and she obviously really bothered her. Ironically, she had been doing work to support GLAAD and the other LGBTQ issues and supporting organizations. So this was actually a issue close to her heart. And I think it especially bothered her that her face was appearing in these, anti-gay memes. And then trying to research it, it wasn't really clear. Some people claimed that it was some kind of inside joke started by the LGBTQ plus community, but taken too far. But I don't really know. But it was enough to drive her off the platform.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. Yeah. I mean, because it's a child,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are going to be people who claim that just like they did with Kelly Marie Tran when she deleted her Instagram account, because she didn't come out and make a statement that it was about harassment, even though it was obviously about harassment. on the account. That I've literally seen people online who used to be my Facebook friends trying to say that it wasn't because anyway, it was obviously.
Nuts.
Yeah, I mean,
I watch a couple people who do movie reviews on YouTube, and one of them talked about Kelly Marie Tran, and like he pointed out that like how can you hold her responsible for how her character was written?
Right.
She just showed up to work and did her job and did a really good job of it.
Right.
So you could, maybe if you didn't like her acting performance, you could say I didn't think she was a great actress or something. But to attack her because you didn't like the themes of the movie or something,
or to blame her
stupid.
As ruining your childhood or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
and
she's an actor. She showed up to do a job. Any one of us, any one of those critics would have showed up for the paycheck she got and did the same thing.
Or
she
a chance to be part of Star Wars history.
Right. Even though they'd probably do a less...
Because she was a super fan anyway, you know, so...
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, even though they'd have probably done a less of a good job than she did, they would have done it for the paycheck. So...
Nothing wrong with that, you know?
Right.
No, it's so aggravating because it's like the fact that they focus on Kelly, her character and the actress. It's instead of the filmmakers is really indicative that the problem is there's some intersection of the visibility of the character and the plot line and everything, and she's just sort of the figurehead of it to these people. And it's so dumb because it's like that's not the exactly like what you said. Like that's not the structural thing that they're mad at. You know, she just was
exactly.
there.
And I've brought this up before. Like, if you really love a character or a situation or a plot from a TV show or a movie, then you'd want to talk to the writer. He's the one who came up with that, or the director, the one who actually produced that piece of art.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about those people. They only want to talk to the person they actually saw on the screen.
Now, to be fair. I've been watching Andromeda with Richard, my husband, and it's simultaneously amazing and awful.
Yes,
and
I remember
there was
that
a
show.
plot line, and I was so angry. I tweeted at the author. I was like, "Who wrote this?" Because I was like, "Why are you making me care so much? I'm so mad." You know. So I mean, so there are pedantic people. That will do that.
or you're capable of understanding the difference. And I wish more people took your example to understand, like, who put the words out there and who just said the words. They're not the same person.
I don't want to go on the record, though, saying when you hate something, tweet the author.
No.
On behalf of all of my friends.
Especially on things like TV shows. Authors have a little less control over television shows and movies than they do over, say, books.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But speaking of authors and people who put words out there, there's a romance author who last month tried to trademark the term cocky. Actually, I do believe she succeeded in trademarking the term cocky. She's got a series of Felina Hopkins. She has a line of romance novels that all have cocky in the title. So she incited ill will during what I guess is called Cockygate, among self-published and indie authors. You can't have, apparently she's trying to enforce it, the not using the word cocky. And I mean, that's messed up enough, but now this month there is a fantasy author who's trying to trademark the term Dragon Slayer in relation to media, despite the fact that the words Dragon Slayer have been together since the movie came out way back when, with Sir John Gielgud and the guy who played the Bean and Ally McBeal and Janosch in Ghostbusters 2, and I can't remember his name. But anyway, Dragon Slayer. Austin intellectual property lawyer Tim D. Cheda has listed as a contact in an application to trademark Dragon Slayer in connection with fantasy novels. And there are almost 700 different fantasy novels that and works that list Dragon Slayer as part of their title on Amazon and Kindle right now.
Yeah, that's insane. That's an insane... Just for the record, trademark is not the same as copyright.
Right.
And it doesn't expire as long as the company can maintain it.
Exactly.
But it's more narrow than copyright. Like you said, Mikey, it only applies to a single product, service, or like subgenre. So when you said fantasy, that's like, I don't see how this could possibly go forward because fantasy. But if he had Dragon Slayer energy drink, he could probably get the trademark on it.
for energy drink purposes,
Yes.
certainly.
Or something not where it's already been used for decades as a common word.
Right.
But let the lawyers hack it out.
You know, if this person, and I don't know if the lawyer is the person moving forward on it or not, but it's MSE Media LLC, whoever's behind it, if they get it, this is the equivalent of patent trolling, is what this is.
Yep.
Yes.
And if, you know, even if they don't get it, if they move forward into the spotlight and get media attention, they're still going to get a payday over this, and then heightened exposure, and then a better chance for a deal, either writing the story of how they tried to trademark Dragon Slayer or actual fiction, which, gosh, I hope they, you know what, I don't
That's
like
a
to wish
biopic
people ill.
that I'm good just skipping.
Yeah, I don't like to wish people ill. I really don't. But this makes me want to. It's really, you know, I think
really tests your ethics.
I think, you know, 2-word titles or whatever, or title of Tale of the Cocky, whoever, in a romance novel may be more suited to trademarking, although not quite. But Dragon Slayer is apparently the new cocky.
So I don't know if anything can truly be the new cocky, but you know how, like, there are a lot of things going around on Twitter, which I love and I will fight you over, about how they're feeding, AI neural nets, and they're feeding them, like, examples of certain things just over and over and over, and then seeing what it spits out, like Harry Potter fanfic or something. So, but if you fed a neural net scripts from the TV show Deadwood, I think there is one word that would somehow show up more often in that neural net script than it does in the actual script, just in aggregate. And I don't want to make Steve bleep it, but this is all to say that they're supposedly filming a Deadwood movie this fall. So Deadwood was a well-received HBO Western drama set in, Deadwood, North Dakota, I think? South Dakota?
South Dakota.
A Dakota, where it's cold. And the language was famously aggressive, but
yes,
it apparently never got a true finale. So, word on the street is that it'll be filming this fall. So I watched the first episode of Deadwood, but it's not something I watched a lot of. I mostly just thought all the characters should just die because they were awful.
Yeah.
And I see why it was a good, well-made show, but I was just like, I only have so many hours in a day, y'all.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I was kind of bemoaning the fact that when I was in middle school and high school, I read constantly. As in, everywhere I went, I had a fiction book with me, would read in every downtime, like, 5 minutes on the bus or 10 minutes in class after the lecture, I was reading. And I would finish a novel every 3 or 4 days for years. And then something happened when I got out into the real world and worked a job and, whatever, and I just come home and veg out in front of the TV and stopped reading. And so that bothered me. And then I noticed recently I've been really into these, and I've discussed it, the HFY subreddit, the humans, subreddit. Yeah. And I'm trying to look, why do I like these stories so much? I'm hungrily reading them for hours. And it's because they're likable characters you actually root for. Like, you want this person to succeed. You want the romance between the two protagonists to work out. And you're hoping that it does, and you're invested in the story. And I think that's kind of what, like, the TV shows do the same thing, though. To be adult and mature, they have a whole bunch of unlikable characters. You're not really rooting for any of them. I guess you kind of have to settle for whoever the least worst one is or something.
I just finished the Joe Abercrombie First Law trilogy and the first standalone book after that. And there are characters that I ended up liking, but none of them were redeeming. None of them were really redeemable at all. And I mean, there are characters that end up being your favorite characters, but when it comes down to it, likability aside, there were so few redeeming qualities in the whole series, and wow.
Well, and likability is different than being redeemable, right?
Oh, like, sure, absolutely.
Do I not love a good catty, awful best friend? I mean, I'm in. If they're funny or there's some other charm to them, it's like someone can be awful but not unlikable. Like me, if I were charming and likable. Oh, you sassy thing. No, but it's like a good villain or someone, or like a love to hate. That's different than unlikable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so at some point, and I don't know when it happened, a lot of this, like books, TV shows, and movies became about terrible people doing horrible things. And it's tiring. Like, yeah, it's a fascinating story. And, it really is interesting. But it's also kind of draining. And you kind of want to cleanse your palate and read something fun again. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here's something fun again. It's a little bit of science news from NASA. The Opportunity rover on Mars is 14 years past its original 90-day design life.
Go get him, little guy.
Take that factory warranty.
That's exactly right. And so they're amazed that it's still operating. It's still beaming in information. It's still operable. The biggest threat is dust. A lot of dust blows around on Mars, and it covers the solar panel. And then if the rover can't fully charge its batteries, then it can't phone home anymore, can't transmit, can't move. And that's kind of how they fail. That, amongst other things. And so that there's a huge, giant dust storm blowing around on Mars, and there's a lot of concern. So I believe that the rover has already lost contact with Earth. The engineers are optimistic that once the storm is done, the solar panel can be cleared. Like, I don't know how they know this. I think it's happened before. But they're not going to really rest easy until it's done. And because it's been around so long, transmitting good science, everybody's kind of got an emotional attachment to the little robot. I mean, there's even been an XKCD cartoon about the robot. We've really personalized it,
I find this dust storm, curious and suspicious. I do, because it came not too long after the Mars Curiosity rover announced that they found the building blocks of life on Mars, and then all of a sudden there is a rover endangering dust storm on Mars. Now there is. I smell a conspiracy.
Well, I love a good conspiracy, and I'm willing to go on this journey with you. All right, so let's talk. On our planet, some possible actual conspiracy against gamers.
Okay.
All right. So picture Sony versus the world. And the world meaning people that play the wildly popular battle royale survival game Fortnite.
I've even played that, and I'm an old.
Wow.
I wasn't going to say it, but and
but it's true.
So yeah, I'm not walking into that. So Fortnite, extremely popular. They've released a version for the Nintendo Switch, which is a very popular console because you can take console games on the go. Very cool. Mm-hmm. But apparently already Fortnite allows cross-server play with PlayStation 4 and PC or Mac or, your desktop stuff. But if you have previously linked your account, your Fortnite account, where you keep your cosmetic items and upgrades and stuff like that, you can't, if you've ever played it on PS4, that means that you can't use that account to play on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh.
And it was not clear to a lot of people that that exclusivity would be the case. Sony is famously very reticent to allow cross PC play, but particularly cross console play. And frankly, I think it's short-sighted. I see where they're trying to protect some of their business stuff, but it's frankly the market is moving toward everything is going to sync over console, mobile, desktop, web or whatever, like everything, like one account, all the different things. And I think it's really interesting that Sony is still trying to hold strong on not just not allowing cross-server play, but the fact that people that have Fortnite accounts that want to play on Switch are locked out of playing on the Switch if they've previously played on the PS4. And I think this is going to be a really interesting consumer news item to follow.
Yeah,
sure.
Because it's like, I don't envy Sony's PR right now because it's just bad.
Well, I guess we'll find out, because either they're brilliant or they're stupid, and we'll just have to wait to see, because stocks will tell, right? The market will play it out, and we'll find out whether they're brilliant or stupid. But we don't have to worry about that when we're talking about the world in general, because Norwegian researchers released a study this week that analyzed the IQ scores of Norwegian men born between 1962 and 91, and they found that the scores increased almost 3 percentage points each decade for those born between 1962 to 1975. But then they saw a steady decline among those born after 1975, and that includes within families. So we're not talking about it being a genetic factor, because we're predisposed to pass on intelligence genetically. They've already proven that through markers. But so in families that were, predisposed to pass on intelligence, the IQs have still declined. Similar studies have happened in Denmark, in France, in Britain, in the Netherlands, Finland, Estonia, downward trend in IQ scores. And I'm telling you, Idiocracy is on its way to becoming the world's first predictive documentary. That's what I'm seeing right now. There's a name for it. I can't remember. I didn't know the name for it. You just typed it there, Steve.
But it's actually the opposite. That's why I was surprised by this article when I saw it. Because there's a well-known thing called the Flynn effect. It's named after the guy who discovered it. That test scores have been increasing continuously and linearly from the earliest years of test taking. So as soon as they began measuring IQ, it's been going up a couple points every single year since then. And no one can exactly explain why, because is it true that humans are actually getting smarter? A lot of people don't really believe that. So it's not clear. Some people think it might just be a case of, better diet, better health, better medicine, or more education for more people. But no one knows. So when you read the thing about the Flynn effect saying scores are going up, then you read this study saying scores are dropping. I don't really know.
So I have strong opinions about this.
I just need to say that I thought the Flynn effect was a reference to Tron, because Jeff Bridges' character in Tron was Flynn. Anyway, I'm sorry. You have strong feelings.
No, to me, it's a lot of, I mean, so much of IQ testing and testing generally, it's about taking the test. And yes. I think IQ truly is such a poor measure of any kind of a lot of these tests, they don't really test anything innate. I mean, a lot of these IQ tests functionally have vocabulary portions, right? And so it's so things like accessibility to education and class and family support really affect the scores, And so for me, it's if they're going down, I think what's interesting is not that actually people are getting dumber. It's just they're scoring differently on the IQ test, and I wonder if that's a measure of the fact that we are either designing the test better, so that they are less skewed in favor of people with access to these kinds of resources, or what. But my personal thing is that I used to date a psychology grad student when I was in college, and in order to get experience administering all these different IQ tests, they have to sucker their friends or girlfriends into sitting and taking mock IQ tests for 4 hours at a time. Because no one else will do that for you unless they're getting something paid in return.
Right.
Or paid. Or so it's you get your friends to do it, and usually that means your spouse or significant other. So I mean, it wasn't sexy role play. It was really boring role play where we'd have to create test conditions. And I took 4 or 5 different IQ tests, and I was these are really dumb. There were IQ
Come on, Madison,
sections
take the test. It'll be hot.
Oh my God, never. I'm really into I'm fine with teacher role play stuff, but that was not what I meant.
This was the opposite of hot.
Yeah, it was not. Oh, I even had to take the 2 of the ones for children, and I was this is not even sexy daddy role play. This is just so bad. So that's my experience and opinion with taking an IQ test as an adult.
I think we can discuss this further in Problem with Your Face.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
I've done research on this.
The change in scores is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we could maybe talk a little bit more about IQ. Nobody here is an expert. But I think, we've done some reading and you have a lot of personal experience. So
Armchair
I know a lot
enthusiasts.
about Tron.
Yeah, we can talk about Tron.
That's the only effect we want to measure, right, Flynn?
Yeah.
So, just one more thing in the news, in sort of science news, piggybacking off that, animals are reportedly becoming more nocturnal to avoid humans because we're awful. So we need to read more of that Humans F Yeah subreddit, I think. But they studied a bunch of different mammals specifically across continents and small mammals, large mammals, and in areas where even if the human activity in the area wasn't lethal to the animals, like we're talking like hiking, farming, hunting, anything like that, if there was an animal that roughly was splitting its time 50-50 between day and nighttime activities, the increase in the proportion of the animal's nighttime activity in these human-dense areas would go up at points almost 68%.
Wow.
Like, and so that's, like, we're really, like, we know we affect the environment, like, we talk, and the article mentioned this too, like, mostly we talk about how we affect the environment geographically, like, displacing habitat, but we're also changing behavior in a way that makes the animals are trying to accommodate to us and avoid us, you know?
I have two responses to that. First, I've seen Over the Hedge, so I already know how we affect animal behavior. Because that poor Hammy, when he has too much caffeine, goes nuts. And second, and this is on a serious note, I wonder how this will affect them evolutionarily. You know, obviously, diurnal animals are now shifting towards nocturnal behavior, and so genetically they're going to be predisposed to those who can see better in the dark, those who have whatever better night senses, whatever the senses will be, or darker, you know, well, I don't know, you might see a different coloration because colors are different at night, so you might see brighter colors on some animals that I don't know, I have no idea, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yes. Yep. And evolution doesn't stop. A lot of people think that, like, wow, this animal evolved to be this state.
Yeah.
But no, everything continues. The evolution has not stopped just because you have something now. There's an elephant now. It and everything else, including us, continue to evolve. So enough of news. How about trashing or touting movie trailers?
This will make for one epic trailer.
Speaking of evolution, we're talking about a movie that is the pinnacle, the apex of evolutionary process. And yes, I am not talking about Jurassic Park.
No.
What am I talking about?
World.
Yeah. What am I talking about, Steve?
Dumbo.
Oh, and not that classic.
Wasn't that one of the first really big Disney animated movie hits?
I think it might have been.
Maybe. Well, and the reason it's shorter than some of the other features at the time, it was actually a side project that was developed during a strike at the studios, which is really cool. So that actually which is cool. It just came up in that book I've been slowly reading about the history of American animation.
Cool. Very cool.
So that's my tie-in here, but man, I watched this.
So we're referring to a live action remake. You say live action, but because it's Dumbo, a lot of it is CGI. But it's real humans, real sets.
And some of Michael Keaton's hair is CGI, I believe. I'm
creepy
kidding.
Children singing, creepy children singing already.
Yes.
That's a sign of.
I haven't seen the crows. I didn't see any crows in the trailers. Did you see any crows in the trailers?
I don't think the crows are in this. I think that the crows have been replaced.
How do you
the
do a
entertaining
Dumbo
but
movie
racist
without
crows? Were
to be fair,
by creepy children.
You can totally.
This is just a teaser, so it's very possible.
You could fix the crows. You could fix the crows.
Absolutely, and the
They're
song.
not endemically awful.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a musical the same as the original Disney movie was, but I don't see how you could do a musical without having "When I Seen an Elephant Fly," because that's the song.
Right.
That's the song from the musical that anybody remembers. I don't know. Is there a mouse? Is what's his name? Timothy
J. Mouse? I don't know.
This is just a teaser, so maybe the first full trailer will answer some of those questions.
So I just want to say, it's another Tim Burton movie starring Danny DeVito as a circus ringmaster.
Yep.
It's a reunion.
Like Big
reunion.
Fish.
It's a reunion of Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton, so it's the penguin and the bat back together again.
Okay, how about the creature design on Dumbo himself?
He's adorable.
The few seconds look pretty good. They look good.
It looked real cute. I thought it was going to be creepy, but it looked really cute, actually. So
it looks CGI, but adorable. It really does.
They did a good job not making it, because it could uncanny valley really easily, but they kept the big eyes. We saw like about half a second of what I think is from the pink elephants on parade scene.
Yeah.
I would love to see that in glorious 3D CGI.
That would be cool.
Well, and Colin
so what do you think about it?
Oh,
Tim Burton as the director.
Whatever. I'm kind of over Tim Burton. I don't know.
What was the last thing he directed? It was that Miss
Big Eyes? No, that was...
Did he do Big Fish?
No, Big Fish was a while ago.
Thing.
Big Fish was like almost 12, 15 years ago now. Big Fish was excellent.
I'll look it up. Yeah, we love that movie.
The last thing he directed, I'm going to have to look it up to find out.
I'm looking.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children was the last thing.
There you go.
He did that? Huh.
Yeah. So, and I was trying to remember the name
of that. That was
okay. Although apparently they have also announced Beetlejuice 2. So, his continued collaboration with Michael Keaton will last forever and ever and ever. And if ever there was a place for Uncanny Valley, it's Beetlejuice 2. But we're talking about Dumbo, and there is, I don't know if you get to see the elephant fly, but you get to see him in the teaser, you get to see him glide, and after having zero interest in it at all, the teaser at least made me want to see another full trailer.
Yep, I agree.
So it did
I also
its
like
job
the cast. It's got Eva Green, Colin Farrell. You've already mentioned Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito. It also has Alan Arkin.
Love
so that
Alan
sounds
Arkin.
like a pretty solid cast to me.
My favorite Alan Arkin was in The West Wing, but yes, he plays a great psychologist in The West Wing. But but yeah. No, it's a great cast. Eva Green was in Penny Dreadful, right? That's her, and she's fantastic in general. Colin Farrell,
she's got those eyes, those intense eyes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Colin Farrell, if he doesn't try and kill somebody, it's not a Colin Farrell movie.
Exactly, beat somebody to death with a pistol.
Let's just hope Dumbo doesn't go to Bruges, Belgium. Sorry.
That's right.
All right, enough about Dumbo. Let's have some fun and games. Madison, what you been playing?
Big fun.
Small price.
Strip Galaga?
Oh my God.
If only the 12-year-old Steven sitting in
an arcade.
An arcade.
We got you.
Steven sitting in an arcade playing Galaga had known that one day there'd be Strip Galaga.
Oh, man.
You know what makes that special super funny? About the only place you see the words arcade anymore are in adult shops where they say they have an arcade.
All right. So
I'm not
y'all,
saying how I know that.
I have been playing Deep Space Waifu, which is a erotic space shooter / bullet hell type game, very similar to Galaga in that you're a little ship and you shoot other little ships and you have bullets and stuff. We'll get into the details. They couldn't
call it Strip Galaga because Galaga was trademarked, and they couldn't call it Cocky Galaga because Cocky and Galaga were trademarked.
Yeah, though they have they're coming out with a fantasy expansion that is maybe it's Dragon Slayer themed. Yeah, so it's $2. It's Windows only by Neko Climax Studios. Came out this time last year. But the gist of it is that you destroy spaceships and these anime girls' clothes fall off.
Because of course they do.
Of course they do. And there's, in fact, a nude patch that's very easy to add to the game should you want to take it.
Of course there is.
Oh, well, so like, I actually love erotic games. I like, whether they're geared toward like a male gaze or they're more of like an erotic dating game or something. Like, I think it's a fun genre because it's usually pretty tongue in cheek.
Mm-hmm. And other places.
Well, yeah. And it's like when you complete levels, you get like, the CG pinup shots, you know, and basically you shoot these different little spaceships and the clothes start tearing and falling off. And then when you get like a certain percentage of her clothes off, like there's a warning that's like too much intimacy, warning, too much intimacy. And that's when it goes into the boss battle. So like their boss ships and stuff. And like, and there's different anime girls and you flip through them on your phone, and it's like a dating kind of like Tinder style thing. And I'll be honest, this is really goofy, but it was actually really fun. The controls are really, you can hook up a controller to your computer to play it, or you can use a keyboard with the arrow keys. It's pretty straightforward. The controls felt really good. It had that real classic arcade feel. The music is actually really good. And the sound effects are really satisfying. Like you can tell when something connects, and I was actually impressed by it because it could have been just such a throwaway game.
Yeah.
But I feel like they really put effort into it, and there's actually 5 or 6 different themed sequels, like Justice and Flat Chested. So Deep Space Waifu, it's Strip Galaga, it's a space shooter, shoot 'em up kind of game. It's actually really fun if you like those kinds of like arcade style games. It's a really good way to spend a few hours. So this is actually, a lot of these games I play, I don't replay often.
Yes.
But this is one I would easily just keep playing because it just felt really good. And it's also fun. But yeah, nude patch available. It's really easy to find.
The world needs more feel-good, classic arcade games with strip anime.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't even need the strip. Just feel-good games that are fun to play. That needs that.
Centipede? Can we get Strip Centipede?
Give me like 10 minutes and I'll find you something. I'm sure.
Speaking of feel-good and anime, Steve.
スティーブはとってもくだらない人でアニメを見るんです。What weird anime is Steve watching this week?
So I've got 2. First I'll talk about the one I'm currently watching, because I'll just be brief. It's a strong recommend. It's called Food Wars. I believe the full name is Shokugeki no Soma.
It's so good! I'm so sorry. It's so good.
Wow.
What?
She totally fangirled about that. She screamed, "It's so good!" so loud that she just
you've
clipped
seen it
out.
too.
Oh, I'm watching the simulcast. I'm not quite caught up, but I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. It's so good.
I'm only about 21 episodes into the first season, so I've got quite a bit to go. But it was recommended to me because I liked Yuri on Ice.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that. It was the male figure skater in the World Grand Prix, which was it's a surprising subject for anime. It was so well done and so interesting and likable. So they said you might like Food Wars. And Food Wars is very different because it's not nearly as grounded as Yuri on Ice. I'm sorry. But it's no, aliens, no magic, no giant robots, nothing like that. It's a middle schooler. It's a boy named Yukihara Soma. Him and his father work together in a small diner in Japan, and he's just finished middle school. And he just wants to stay at the diner with his dad. And his father says, "No, I'm going to close the diner, travel the world, cook with all my friends in other countries, and I signed you up to a culinary school," which turns out to be the single most prestigious culinary school in all of Japan. And that's pretty heavy hint of what happens later. But anyways, this cooking school has a 90% attrition rate. So they literally tell the incoming class, only 10% of you will graduate. But if you do graduate, your entire career is guaranteed anywhere in the world. And so then it becomes this kind of fight anime. That's a style of anime where like a lot of episodes are just a contest between 2 students, except 100% of the contests are cooking. And so the things that I love is their description of the food, and the people literally orgasm. They're so swept away by the flavor, aroma, and sensation.
It's like they're playing Galaga.
Yes. It's really, really cute. I can strongly recommend it. If you binge watch it, it's a little tiring because it's really, really detailed food descriptions in every single episode. And you're like, but it's so amazingly good and fun. It has a lot of the crazy, anime tropes, like a fighting anime, except that the fighting is pure cooking. Like, how do you handle the duck? And where are you getting your curry spices? And I'm like, it's just amazing.
It's excellent. It's truly an excellent anime. I can't say enough good things about it. Like, it's so exemplary of like when people who don't watch a lot of anime maybe think about anime. It's like exactly what they think. It's like, crazy and like all these tropes and like the big over the top battle scenes, and then like when they eat something really good, all of their clothes fall off, and it's just like
yes. Yeah, it is very well done.
And by the end of it, you're like, I really need to learn to cook.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's hard to watch these episodes and not gain a better appreciation for how much science, art, practice all goes into cooking a good meal. For real. I mean, even though it's kind of a silly anime, it really does teach you that. The second one I want to talk about is one I already finished. There's only 13 episodes. I cannot recommend it. If you want to watch something lighthearted and goofy, you can watch it, but it's not that good. I think it's pronounced like Zitai Bowie Leviathan. There's a link in the show notes. It's basically the Magic Girls genre, where it's a bunch of girls who can magically transform into their second form, but their second form is based on dragons. And so these cute girls who all become dragons, but kind of like girl dragons. What really threw me is that, I mean, it's not a kind of show that you want to read details into. It's a goofy magic girls try to fight and protect the village they're from this otherworldly menace. I mean, it's a pretty standard story. But the writers seem to not care. They don't give a, poop here. And so they say stuff that means nothing. And so, like, one of the first things they tell you about the world is that only girls can perform magic, not boys. And they actually have this whole pre-exposition thing about how, through the ages, men evolved to be bigger and stronger, but they lost the ability to cast magic. Where the girls, didn't gain the strength and the size, but they maintained their ability to cast this amazing magic. So it seems important in the story because they went out of their way to explain it. And then literally from the first episode, this girl's father is the town mage and casts magic. And I'm like, so that literally meant nothing. You added that to the episode and lied. Just lied through your teeth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the second thing that bothers me is, so these girls are very young. They wouldn't, I don't know how old, but they're not even like high school age. And so they have, even in their normal human form, they have kind of like dragon scales, covering their bikini areas. And they show you this. They show, like, if they're wearing shorts, the little bit of scale on their hip shows you that they would be modestly covered with scales, but only in the bikini areas. And even a girl in the first one's, kind of this ruffian in town is trying to look up her skirt, and she says, he's trying to peek at my scales. Okay, I'm saying this because, like every other anime, they have to have a beach episode. And so you have... Yes, so they go to the beach and they're wearing bikinis.
Did they have a beach episode in Food Wars?
It's in an OVA.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. Yeah, that's funny. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So I'm saying this. So these girls, they've already shown multiple times where the scales are and how it's very modest. But now they want to draw them in bikinis, and so miraculously, when they're in their bikini, no scales, including areas they specifically showed the scales covering. It's just not discussed. So that whole thing about
like
the scales...
It's like the Klingon foreheads.
We don't talk about that.
I kept pointing it out to my wife, and I'm like, I get it that it's not meant to be serious fiction, but it can't even be consistent within itself. Like, they just don't care.
Right.
They don't care.
Well, and for some people, that inconsistency wouldn't matter, but you and me, that would bother the crap out of me.
Yeah, me too.
So...
So there you go. One strong recommend, one no recommend. There you go. Go watch Food Wars. It's really good.
Well, there you go. Go watch Food Wars. Go play Strip Galaga. Go watch the teaser trailer for Dumbo to see whether you want to watch an official trailer for it. And that's about all the time we got. We always go a little long when I'm on. Sorry about that, but
yeah.
I talk a lot. But anyway,
more of a good thing is good.
I hope so. I hope it's a good thing. But anyway, if you want to hear more, we're about to go into There's a Problem with Your Face. That's our sister podcast, and it's over on our Patreon site. If you want to hear that, it costs just as little as $1 a month. You get an extra episode with every episode we put out. And where will they find that, Tech Guy Steve?
We always recommend going to our website, aitrpodcast.com.
Right.
There's links to everything, full show notes with links to the stuff we mentioned, including the game that Madison reviews, and of course a link to our social media like Twitter and Facebook, which I hope you're not driven off Twitter because of, creep boys. But a link over to Patreon where you can become one of our patrons.
There you go. And so there you go. Check us out on Patreon. Check us out at aitrpodcast.com. Until next week, I'm Mikey Mason.
I'm Madison Metricula Roberts.
And this was Tech Guy Steve.
And thanks for listening.